Welcome to the February 15th, 2018 episode of Reactive Consciousness. We have a special live episode, which is basically just the questions that we would normally be answering on Corrective. But we have a big group here with us, and we split the episode into two pieces. So if you'd like to hear the first part of this episode, please check out CoreCon episode 83. Without further ado, we have vysethebold, Lotus Prince, PyroJackFrost, OldManStompy, Minty Mitz, Mr. Ryu 45, and Luminaire, all here to answer questions from our audience. Enjoy! This one is from Vacathon. Do you think some games would be the same if the genders of the characters in it were reversed? Let's say something like Metal Gear Solid, where Snake is a woman, the boss is a man, etc., etc., or in Silent Hill, where the nurses are all dudes. Personally, I think it alters the message because of our social standard. Male nurses don't mean the same thing at all than a female nurse in this case.
I actually had something I wanted to bring up about those games in particular. With the boss, like with Metal Gear Solid 3, with the boss, like Snake, I could see being gender swapped, but the boss, like, that relies on, like, there's a plot element which relies on her giving birth to such and such. So, like, that would be a radically different thing.
I mean, you could say there was nanomachines that let a guy give birth.
Nanomachines, son. Yeah. No, with Silent Hill, it depends on the Silent Hill games, though. Because in original Silent Hill, the nurse enemies were incidental. They're just nurses at the hospital. And they had these big, gross lumps on their back. Same with the doctors.
You could say if the gender played a part in the story or any...
No, but, like, that's pretty irrelevant. But in Silent Hill 2, it matters a lot.
Was the original just if only the main character was swapped, or all characters in the game were swapped?
He's not specific, but I think he's basically saying, do you think the game changes? And I think it does, depending on the person.
So that's the thing. Because with Silent Hill 2...
It depends on the observer.
So that's what I'm saying. There are two ways to look. Is it that the person who's playing the game perceives the game differently, or does the rest of the game have to change to facilitate the change in sex as well?
So it depends on the artistic merit of having the character be a certain gender. I would say that in some games it wouldn't matter, but other games it would, where their gender is an artistic choice. Rather than the character just being an avatar. For instance, like in a game like Legend of Zelda, if you made Link, a female Link, like Linkle or whatever, it really doesn't change much. It really doesn't. I mean, if you do a gender swap, it really doesn't matter. I mean, I guess you have a girl saving a girl in a dungeon, but that doesn't really matter.
Versus the one who can't.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anyway. When the character's an avatar, I would say it really doesn't matter. But I would say in something such as Silent Hill 2, gender is very and also how you perceive femininity and sexuality is a big part of that game.
That's where I was going to go with that. Like, if everybody swapped, I could see it working. But, like, if just the nurses went male, it would make no sense.
Isn't that important? Because, like, especially, I think in Silent Hill 2, like, it's a manifestation of, like, sexual repression.
Yes.
Yeah, so, but no, that's what I'm saying. But if
purposely nurses because they're a fetishized, like, field.
But what I'm saying is, if everybody swapped, though, it could happen. Like, if James were a woman, like Jamie or something.
But we don't fetishize male nurses like we fetishize female nurses.
Not as nurses, but you could have them with sexy abs or something. That's literally what they did with the first Silent Hill movie. They made like real super sexy buff Pyramid Head because Rose was a woman, even though she doesn't sexualize Pyramid Head in that movie. That doesn't make fucking sense, but never mind.
But what if it was and made her a lesbian? You can change its sex and
that could still work. That could work.
But they would have to explain that.
Yeah, if Mary does not swap,
they shouldn't have to explain it. Actually, I feel like. It should be implied.
Well, no, the thing is, like, even with the original Silent Hill, it was mostly implied until you get to the end of the game. So when you play it on a second playthrough, it'll make sense. So if it were a lesbian relationship, that would still happen.
Well, does the game begin with him looking for his wife? Or
yes.
When it just...
that would spell it out for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That much would be spelled out, yes.
So, like I said, I think this is more, when games are made and art is made in general, the person making it knows at least on some level how their art should be perceived. It is generated in a way in which it's made for an audience, and for an audience to perceive it in a certain way.
I would even say that the person who made it is making it for themselves in a way. So, and since most game developers are male, that's why most of the main characters are male.
Actually, you know what? You can take this real back. What's the difference between Pac-Man and then Miss Pac-Man?
Yeah.
And then how did people perceive that?
Well, if Miss Pac-Man changed, then the Ghost changed too.
The game that actually made a statement about this was Metroid, right? Because
yeah.
in that case, it was revealed that Samus was a woman.
Oh, that game totally changes in the beginning. It was like, takes off, it's a dude. Whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, wow, cool, I guess.
But
it's Halo.
People kind of ignore that it does this in kind of a bad way. It gives you, like, her sexuality is more a reward, like a sexy, a sexy bikini lady is your reward for beating the game quickly.
If it had been just helmet versus no helmet, that would have been
It
enough.
can't be argued.
Yeah.
You put in the Justin Bailey code, so I guess his real name is Justin Bailey.
Yeah.
It is also true that like Samus has gotten like progressively more sexualized as
that
the
is
series
true.
has gone on. Because I remember
except for
Prime. In the Super Nintendo, when Super Metroid came out, the comic that they drew, like Samus was an Amazon. She was like 6'3" and like 195 pounds.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Really
muscular. She had purple hair.
Right.
I remember that. I remember the purple hair.
And that was a Nintendo in-house magazine. So that was the canonical interpretation of Samus.
But now you have Zero Suit Samus.
I mean, not to minimize, like not to like degrade people for having this kind of appearance, but she's just like a fairly generic looking like blonde woman that you'd expect to see like in professional wrestling.
Yeah. Well, another thing that they did to her was this basically happened ever since the Zero Suit came out. They sexualized a barely sexualized character, except for that bikini thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
wait, isn't that the opposite then? They toned down the sex by giving her a Zero Suit, whereas before she...
No, they turned it up. Because that Zero Suit is a sexy suit. And then they even feminized it even more by adding high heels to it in the Smash Brothers games.
The thing is, it covers more skin, but like we're talking an NES. This is pixels. It doesn't mean
cat
anything.
Suit. I mean,
like,
it's a
versus
sexy
the
cat
Zero
suit.
Suit, which is now like 3D and all that.
Well, there are arguments about like fan service or like sex appeal versus sex and like function. Like that suit makes sense within the context and in terms of the function.
It makes sense
as opposed to
but it makes sense in context. But it's the fucking quiet argument, which was total bullshit.
Exactly.
Like
that's what
I'm not approaching that, but
as
opposed to
she needs to because it's photosynthesis. It's like fuck off. Like you wrote that she needs to get how
when
fan
she
service.
picks it up, or just the leotard when.
No. Again, I know what you mean. Like the leotard covers more than the underwear does, but only like
vice versa.
But like
no.
Yeah, but the leotard thing is like.
Versa?
But the leotard thing now is like you can kind of see more of what's going on now that 3D is a thing versus like a pixely like it's more your imagination than not on the Nintendo.
Look, that's graphical limitations rather than the idea of
the idea. Yes,
they were trying to find a sexy way to appeal to people, and it's a sexualized object. There's no doubt about it, and the Prime interpretation was a very this is a girl that happens to be in armor.
Yeah, she was a brick in Prime.
Yeah, I mean she was just a lot of the themes were implied, but it was just supposed to be a strong woman in armor, and she wasn't sexualized at all.
When I think of the options of sexualizing in that versus a game like a fighting game like Dead or Alive or something like that, in terms like that's
not even
very
trying to be subtle.
restricted.
Dead or Alive basically wouldn't exist if you gender swapped the characters.
Yeah,
unless they're junk.
Well, would have a very different audience.
Very different
the Cobra Club kind of audience.
I remember in Dark Souls, like Guinevere, the goddess of like fertility and
yes,
and
you
like
see
that.
her once.
I think I read somewhere, I heard somewhere that Miyazaki didn't intend to have such a big bosom.
No, I have the art book. They mentioned in the interview, like, I didn't expect that. Even though that's what everyone like gravitated toward the moment they saw her. It's just like, guess the design. All right,
the artist like who made her like was really really happy with her design or something like that. Like he like Miyazaki couldn't like deny him of his.
Yeah, he said he felt a little awkward. Yeah,
and so he was like, whatever, you know what, you're very happy with this. Let me put this in.
I'm reminded of Dragon's Crown. So like,
oh yes,
so Dragon's Crown
sexualizes everybody.
Has the sorceress with the gigantic boobs who's pasted all over all the cover art.
Yeah,
but like at one point they asked the artist for like something they could use for copy, and he sent them like 3 of the dwarves just like half naked.
Nice.
Pretty funny.
Well, no. What had happened was somebody was criticizing him for over-sexualizing the sorceress, and he was just like, "Well, it's better than this." And he gave 3 half-naked male dwarves, and people were like, "Whoa, man!" Like that. And he's like, "Dude, calm down. I was just a joke. I didn't mean to insult anybody with
Just
that."
means that he was obviously the artist himself was obviously comfortable with all different manners of human
Pretty much.
beauty of the human form.
Yeah, and again,
so,
like everybody's sexualized in that game.
But it gets processed through like a marketing department that
yeah.
obviously wants a particular image to be on the cover of the game towards what they think their target audience is.
I mean, the artist is the president of Vanillaware, so he gets his way.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And that's George Kamitani.
There was nothing vanilla about that. No.
But I do like this question because it does rely on perceptions, and also like you're also selling a product to a traditionally thought of as male dominated audience, which is far from the truth now.
Yeah, it might actually be slightly female dominated at this point.
It is.
Bayonetta would be an interesting
Bayonetta.
Well, I mean, Bayonetta,
We already had that. It's called Devil May Cry.
I mean, we have Devil May Cry. Yeah, exactly.
Those two carry.
We have 5 Devil May Cry
Dante
games.
is not a gender swapped Bayonetta.
Basically, is.
He is. He's not overly like sexualized, but he is.
Well, that's what they
Kinda is.
Uses
Girls
sexuality.
love the way
He does have the bare chest.
In
Yeah.
3 he is.
No,
In
but
3 he is.
her
Yeah.
sexuality is literally her weapon. She puts enemies
That's true.
inside
Yeah, but
masochist
you remember-
sadism machines to kill them. Whereas Dante, maybe to some people, is perceived as sexy, but just
No, but
kills
do you
things.
remember? Do you remember when Dante?
Brute, in a sense,
No, but do you
right?
remember when
Dante's
Dante? What was it?
Sorry. Dante is more brute in a sense. When I was playing before, he was just like smashing everything. Just
No, he
jumping
depends on the
around.
weapon. With the
Yeah.
Beowulf, he is. But do you remember when he got the Lucifer, that rose weapon?
isn't it the one where he just makes the heart?
First, I whip it out.
That's what I'm talking about. His entire speech when he uses the Lucifer is like innuendo.
Great,
Yeah.
one scene.
I know, but
Listen,
but that would be sexualizing his
fine.
weapon.
The male Bayonetta would be Garcia fucking Hotspur.
Yes, that's true.
That's a better.
That is very true.
I would agree on that.
Possibly like the greatest name for a video game.
And his name
fucking
actually is
Hotspur.
Garcia F. Hotspur, so it might be fucking
No, it
Hotspur.
definitely is Garcia fucking
Yeah.
Hotspur.
By the way, he has a really cool watch. Did you remember that?
No, which one's that?
Before the game came out, people were like, "Oh man, we're super hyped about Shadows of the Damned. Can you tell us anything about it?" He's like, "I'm not gonna tell you anything about the game. All I'll say is that the main character has a cool watch, and he doesn't have a watch when the game's out. He just doesn't have a watch. It's like thanks.
Suda-51.
Yeah.
He left it at home. He had other things to do.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, there's just no watch in the game at all. Like, all right.
Lollipop chainsaw.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on from that, but a lot of it is eye of the beholder kind of stuff. But there are points in which artistic decisions are made.
Yeah, Lollipop Chainsaw, I would argue, is not sexualized. That makes fun of the player for doing it. It's just like No More
It's
Hero.
definitely sexualized.
I like how Vice said
just
we're
because it
moving
makes a joke
on,
about it
and we're
doesn't
still
mean that it's
talking
not
about it.
sexualized. That's humor as creating.
That's bringing
a group.
attention to the or like.
So like I heard about this referred to like Doctor Who, that like oftentimes the series that are sort of intentionally really bad, they're like a bad joke that everybody's in on.
Oh.
And like humor is used oftentimes to create an in group, and in some sense like
Okay.
the fact that Lollipop Chainsaw uses this as a joke just means that people who are comfortable with that being a joke are the ones who enjoy the game.
Okay,
People who
fair
aren't
enough.
comfortable with a woman's sexuality being a punchline don't like the game. It creates exclusion.
Yeah,
Okay.
or it's like if a movie like The Room has one fourth wall joke in it that makes us like, this is a bad movie, oh, therefore it's okay.
Yeah,
No, the rest is still
It's
crap.
still a really shitty movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, let's move on. So, do you have a favorite editor for videos? Cinema, YouTube, cartoons, etc. Me, I like YouTubers Mr. Stark's style of editing. It's awesome.
Who's asking this, or is this still Falcon?
This is from Facify.
Okay, again.
Yeah. So I really kind of like back in the day when this was a novelty. I really like that Ask a Ninja style of editing, where like just like quick cuts constantly, like one sentence going quickly into another makes it like a really frenetic pace. But to be honest,
I actually dislike that style.
well, it's overused now. So like I liked it as a novelty at the time.
Because like it just comes off to me as like you can't make it through a single take. Like I'm not expecting a half hour of one shot, but like, hey guys, cut. Like it's like get the hell out of here. Like
I think this counts as the answer as a response to this. So I went to see a movie the other day, and one of the trailers was for Wes Anderson's new movie, Isle of Dogs.
Yeah.
And that makes me think like I really like. I mean, I'm pretty sure he directs, but like whoever does the editing of those movies, I really like the. I mean, he's the one who directs it, so it's in a way him. Like the way he does all the scenes with like people looking at the camera and like I don't know how to explain it, but I really like that style.
I really like Edgar Wright.
Yeah, I was gonna say Edgar Wright has has a great editor. I forget his name.
Like
but,
the Hot Fuzz like cuts.
I was gonna say like,
that's doing it
does
right.
That, it's amazing. Like so quick.
That is like my favorite was when it was doing that montage of Angel going through his day, and it shows like the same train station. He's asleep, and it just cuts to a train trying by. He's like, oh, like it looks like the same shot, but it's just suddenly night now, and he just gets awakened by the train going by. That was just like.
Baby Driver has some of the best editing like ever.
I still need to see that.
It's really, really good. I mean, those are movies that are definitely exemplified by their editing, and I really like also the editing in Fury Road. It's basically edited unlike any other current movie would be.
Actually, here's a question. Regarding 2001 Space Odyssey, would you argue that's more direction or editing, the way that's handled? So like the bone going into the ship and stuff like that?
It's a combination. I mean, he would have shot his movies with the intention of it being edited in a certain way. Not every movie is made that way.
That's true.
Star Wars. You could argue that's ambiance or atmosphere versus editing, which is
I'm not talking about
how scenes transition.
No, I am talking about the transitions though. Like it is very slow and deliberate anyway. But no, actually no. How about Star Wars? Did you see that video that was going all over the internet? Like, I think it was either January or December. Like
Defeminized edition.
No, not that one. Like about how Star Wars was like a different movie basically. Like until it was edited. Like you would like it was just like it went from a like forgettable B movie to like Star Wars because of editing.
So they actually say that that movie was saved in the original Star Wars was saved
A
in
New
the
Hope,
editing
not
room.
not The Last Jedi.
Was saved in the editing room, which
No, watch the video. It's crazy. Like shooting the same exact scenes with no changes, but in a different order, made the movie like more coherent. Like,
yeah, I mean, even the length of a cut, and how it transitions into another is very important in how it resonates with feeling. So I would go as far as to say that I hate a certain style of editing as well. I'm really I like the Bourne movies in particular, but I hate every other movie that tries to emulate them because they are very bad at that style with that editing because they use those Bourne movies use a lot of shaky cam kind of stuff, and in certain contexts it's really good, but in those movies it like typified that and exemplified that style of editing.
You know what my go-to is for that? The Quantum of Solace, the opening chase scene.
Jesus, you can't see shit.
You can't see shit. Like the thing is, I don't like shaky cam. Some people handle it better than others. You know, some people are like, oh, I got nauseous, I had to look away. Like, some people can't watch first-person games for that reason. I've never had that problem, but I actually had to look away from the screen for the opening chase of Quantum of Solace. It was just like, that was so shaky.
Yeah.
Also, the heavy-handed symbolism with, like, I hope I make it to the bad guy or the hostage, I forgot what, on time. And he's running through the building, and it's cut into the horse race, but it keeps cutting back and forth. Like, yes, I get it. I get the parallel. Like, it just bothers me when there's kind of like, see what I'm doing here? Like, or, you know, like I saw something recent, like in a review of an old 90s anime where it's like someone was about to make this bad decision that would, like, ruin her innocence or whatever, and then it shows, like, you know, a snake in a tree. It's like, I get it. Like, it's just like, come on.
I also get pretty motion sickness, like, playing certain first-person games. Like,
Yeah.
I know, like, I enjoy this game, but some of the motion sickness, like, causes me to, like, only play this game for, like, maybe at max 1 or 2 hours.
Yeah.
Before I could go back to it.
Do you have any examples, or just first person in general?
I think, what was that game that I was playing? Quantum
Conundrum.
Another Quantum?
Quantum Conundrum.
Yeah.
I have to look, I feel like that game I have to like observe my surroundings a lot, and there's always like, and I put my headphones on, so I have to like, there's something on this side. Oh, there's something on this side. I don't know.
So you're just looking everywhere at once.
Yeah. So it was like I can't be tunnel vision.
Sure.
By it, so
Yeah.
I get that motion sickness eventually.
OldManStompy, you were going to say something on it?
So just in terms of like movies that I thought were well edited, I really enjoyed X-Men 2.
Oh yeah,
I thought that actually. So it's quite difficult to do. I thought the way they edited fight choreography in that movie was really
great.
interesting. It generated a lot of like. It made the fights, especially the Wolverine fight against Lady Deathstrike in that movie, seem like really frantic. I love
that fight.
Like without really having to do any unusual choreography. It just was like the way you never quite got to focus on the action meant that so it's hard to convey speed in movies. This has always been something which is very difficult to make not look stupid like it does.
You just cut like
anime, you can use like visual cues and action lines and things like that.
Yeah, but no, like regarding like the same thing, like Catwoman, like where everything, like there's literally a scene where they're like sitting and talking at tea, and it's like 12,000 camera cuts, and I'm like, is this an action scene? Like it's ridiculous.
So yeah, so I liked that particular part of that movie, and in general, it was just a really good movie. On a bit sort of a funnier side, I like the way that on the cartoons the American version of Samurai Pizza Cats.
Oh yeah,
was like
absurdly, I love it.
Was hilarious. They were supposedly given no scripts whatsoever.
Right.
And the plot lines make no sense. They're full of a lot of adult humor. Not like
really?
No one's gonna watch this.
It's basically the voice actors like improving and having a good time.
So it's basically
so
you know that outtake reel of the VR Troopers.
Yeah.
That's basically the entire Samurai Pizza
Oh
Cat show.
man, sign me up.
That series is great. You can buy it vanilla with actual like subtitles, like translating the show. But why would you do that? Like watch the.
There was another show like that. There was like some anime. It was like
Crayon Shin-chan.
No, not that one.
Ghost Story.
Ghost Story. Do you know about that one, Vice?
No.
So that was like a really mediocre, like nobody cared about it in Japan. Like,
I watched that with Harry.
Yeah, it was like a throwaway series. Like it just didn't do very well because it was just so whatever. So like America wanted it, and like I think like people just like ad-libbed whatever bullshit they wanted to in there with very few restrictions, and those are actually the official American subs.
I will say that one like it relies a little bit more on toilet humor, whereas the Samurai Pizza Cats one is actually kind of intelligent.
No, but it's just funny because it's just funny because they're basically like shit dubbing, and it became canon. They were just like, here, just take it. It's like a worthless title. Just do whatever you want with it, and now it's kind of like. Not that it came back in Japan for that reason, but like it got a little bit of a following.
I wouldn't say that America wanted it. I would say that somebody probably bought it because the license was cheap.
Probably, yeah. But now that's the official dub, which is just funny to me.
I don't remember much toilet. Again, I saw this like 15 years
ago. I've seen clips. It's there.
But I watched the whole thing with it, and then because it's like the three main characters are like Buddha, Shinto, and Christian, and then they fight. So there's some interesting like. Religion and monster humor in there.
No, there is, but it's also very lowbrow.
Possessed by different monsters. I don't know. It was interesting.
It's possible that like the person who made the clip show that I watched picked the really off-color stuff to highlight, and maybe the rest of it is
maybe because that's what I saw too. Yeah.
But what I was going to say regarding my least favorite style is like really quick cutting, like you were saying, with Catwoman. They're really quick cutting with no actual like artistic intent behind it.
Like remember that clip I linked a while back, Taken 3, where he's climbing the fence and it's 7 cuts. It's like what?
But we got to get it from different angles.
That's literally what it was.
The Saw sequels have this big problem. Not the first Saw movie, but the Saw sequels starting with 2. 2 has a really awful editing style that makes the movie almost unwatchable. Like maybe at the time it looked kind of cool and punk rockish, but then like you go back and you watch it and you're like, this is the most 2000s thing I've ever seen in my whole fucking life. And it's like the Sum 41 of movies. It's just It's like a manufactured like art with no intent behind it.
Then
it's something 2000s.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing you don't watch professional wrestling because so the guy who does the editing for or the camera work for live broadcasts is the guy by the name of Kevin Dunn, is really notorious for what's called the zoom cam and the shaky cam.
Oh no.
So there's all these tricks that he's developed for himself to make it less obvious these guys are really not hitting each other. Not that like anybody's watching professional wrestling thinking they're really hitting each other.
But you want to have some
if you're in the arena,
plausible
you see
deniability.
it.
So like a lot of the time he'll like jitter the camera every time someone hits somebody, or
so
he'll like
it's
zoom in and out like 12 times, and it's one of those things that like sometimes you'll get sick watching wrestling and you won't know why, because unless this is pointed out to you, like a lot of the time you won't realize it's happening.
But on a click.
Because it's subtle.
Yeah.
But it's really obnoxious once people start pointing it out to you. Sometimes when guys are like wrestling, there'll be like 12 camera cuts at a time. So you can't really see what's going on.
I hate that. That's like the Alien Predator fight at the end of Alien.
Unfortunately, yeah. Sometimes they just sometimes they don't end on the angle that they want to really show the impact on the move, which is really unfortunate because that's all they learn how to do in like the developmental is how to wrestle for the hard camera. So you can't like fuck that up.
Yeah.
But somehow they manage to.
My favorite editing trick, Wayne's World, extreme close up.
Yes.
Yeah. So like with the Saw sequels, when I originally saw Saw 2,
Saw.
I had some.
I was on like a cruise and I thought I was watching a trailer for it because it was like all these quick cuttings, and I was just like, when does this trailer end? Oh, this is the actual fucking movie.
That sucks.
And so like the editing is so jarring and so unnecessary almost exhausting. Like it's exhausting to watch it.
And then you finally get to the end of the movie and it says coming this Friday.
Yeah, it's just I literally thought it was a trailer. So
that's bad.
If nobody else has any final words on that, I'll move on to question 3 so we can get on get finished here.
Sure. I can only think of one, and it's actually a slow during an action scene. It's a slow pan, because I actually think immediately to like Mortal Kombat actually, which had better editing than. Look at that. Like when Scorpion's fighting Johnny Cage on the bridge, and they're doing their things, and it's just a really low. It's a slightly low angle. It's just a slow.
Yeah, the camera sits there, and you just watch the goddamn fight. Yeah. What a concept! Like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Like he's punching a dude, the other guy's punching back.
I generally prefer deliberate editing and deliberate framing, for a purpose. So. But that doesn't mean all quick cutting's bad. It's just it needs to have something.
It needs to be
behind
a style. If you're using it to cover something, then like you can't do that thing. Like
it needs to be done well.
Either you have to be a brilliant editor, or you should just not do that thing.
I do hate anyone that edits, and it's mostly with YouTube. One sentence, one frame.
Well, that's what we were saying at the beginning. Like, hey, everybody, what's going on? Cut.
New sentence,
so we got a new thing for you today. Cut. Like it's just like, oh my god.
It doesn't allow us.
It's funny because you were there. Now you're here.
To sink in.
It's frustrating.
Come on.
So anyway, this one's from Insane Buffoon, and our last question of the day. If given a choice between the two, would you rather no longer need to sleep or no longer need to eat? So, I would assume that needing to eat... The thing about needing to eat is, like, eating and sleeping are both enjoyable activities, I guess you could say. But eating is like a very worldly pleasure kind of thing. Like, and if I didn't need to eat, I would still probably eat anyway because it's fun.
Well, that's the thing. Like eating, it can
also
be a social...
I'm fat and I really like to eat.
Well, not only that, but like eating can be a social activity besides, and also, basically, what we're asking here is. Would you like to be able to skip meals or skip sleeping? If I could stay up like all 8 hours or 7 hours, just do more stuff, I'll skip sleeping.
That's what I was thinking too. I'd rather.
Am I allowed to sleep if I don't need to sleep?
Yeah.
And also, if I don't need to eat, does that mean that I just gain weight every time I eat something?
Yeah. How do you still use the bathroom?
I don't know. I don't know. You're not lacking a digestive system.
I was gonna say.
Let's house rule it. Like eating has the normal effect if you do it.
That's what I'm saying.
Because if I never have to use a toilet, when would I play all my mobile games?
I was gonna say
when you're not sleeping.
Can I just eat infinitely and never get
like
full?
the toilet has like a new definition for you? It's like I need to go to the bathroom so I can play my mobile game. Like that's what the toilet's for. That's where I sit.
I better eat. An hour before I have time.
I was gonna say that I find
overeating.
No, but not even that. You just start associating the toilet with mobile games. Like I just gotta. That's where I go to play my mobile games. Like
now this is also a very our reaction here is a very first world reaction because like we also have access to.
Yeah,
food.
we could eat if we wanted to.
Yeah, like
We also could sleep.
Yeah, if we were like dying in the middle of nowhere, like maybe we would skip eating instead. Like,
yeah, exactly. So I mean, actually, the more practical one in this instance is to actually never have to.
Yeah,
eat.
the objective answer for humanity is eat, but like for our lifestyle, probably sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also like, let's remember that like work hours are getting longer. So if you never have to sleep, then you can imagine that we'll start seeing 16-hour work days.
Well,
no,
we're
fuck you. I'm
assuming
going
that
home after
you
8.
are the unusual special butterfly that doesn't need to sleep.
That's true.
Yeah,
but no, like
if it were everybody, it would be a fucking nightmare.
Fuck off. I'm going home. It's whatever o'clock. Like I've hit my 8.
Yeah, you never get tired, so therefore you have to work all the time. I mean that.
But that is what happens though. Like, oh, I noticed you were able to handle that little extra favor you asked for me. So maybe you could just do that all the time, and maybe I'll ask for another favor later. Like, you're gonna pay me more or what? Like, get the hell out of here.
Fuck off with that shit.
Yeah.
So I think we answered that pretty well. Does anybody else have any further commentary on that one?
I guess maybe only if you don't sleep, if you need a break from consciousness. Because I don't know, I just thought it was like, what if people have like, maybe with really like anxious thoughts or intrusive thoughts, and it's like
true.
if sleep is your only respite or break from that.
Yeah, you might need some kind
Or
of cooling off.
There are lots of ways to be alone with your thoughts if you just want to like.
But
take a
I
mental
assume
cool
this
down.
question is asked on the premises of like, oh.
Yeah, but sometimes you're trapped with your thoughts though.
If you don't acquire any of these, like, if you don't sleep or eat, you don't like actually gain the downside of not sleeping. What happens to you? I'm pretty sure it's like, oh, you're just not able to sleep, or you just don't need to eat.
It's more interesting if the question is like, what if you don't have to but also can't sleep or can't eat?
Oh, that'd be interesting.
That would be like,
how do I pass the time?
Why do you feel mentally exhausted? It's because you're expending energy, in your brain basically. So like, does that not happen anymore if you don't really need to sleep?
Yeah,
am I going insane? As
I could just be sharp forever.
By definition of not have to, otherwise the fatigue would just build up and you die. So I would say yes.
Yeah.
So this reminds me kind of a similar tangential premise of a scenario that happens in the 5th Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book. The main character of the series is stuck on a planet where they have all of their artistic expression revolves around the fact that they need to instinctively they need to continue to remind themselves to eat. They have no hunger reflex, so they have to like basically remember that they had to eat.
That sounds god awful.
And so every one of their books, every one of their novels, every one of their any piece of art basically ends with the main character forgetting that they needed to eat and them dying.
Well, you know what? The thing is though, that actually happens. Like, have you heard about those people who like play some MMO for like 25 hours and just like die? Like,
well, yeah. That's I assume that's mainly from non-sleep.
There's also a very rare condition called sepsa. I think you don't have sensations, so they have to remind themselves to eat. They have to check to see if they've maybe bitten themselves in their tongues to see. Or have to go to the bathroom because they can't feel the pressure.
That's rough.
Yeah. Wow. So I think we explored that pretty well. And like I said, no reactive for this week. We'll of course probably split this into 2 episodes, which you'll have experienced by this point. But I just want to do a little bit of an outro here. That's the show for this week.
So natural.
Proactive consciousness.
It was a really nice transition.
Well done.
I believe it.
We want to thank all of our fans that contributed questions. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own on the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5 stars on iTunes. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement keeps me sleeping at night. So,
even though he doesn't have to.
Even though I don't have to.
Assuming he still has to do that. Yeah.
It's something I enjoy. You can catch us on Thursdays, usually, on our sister podcast, Reactive Consciousness, and the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold. It's not VYSEBOLD, as OldManStompy spelled it out last week.
Oh, no.
You forgot the article.
I forget a lot of things. It comes with the territory when you get a little on in years.
Isn't that right, Old Stompy?
Old man Alzheimer's.
You.
But you can find me on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, and Battle.net.
That's BATTLETHENET.
Battle of the Net. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, or even selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play.
He'll do it next week, I swear.
Yeah, okay. Then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me as PyroJackFrost or Cloudoid540 on many of the things that have already been mentioned.
You can find me as OldManStompy on most major social media networks and gaming networks except for Steam.
You can find me on Minty Mitz on Steam.
On Minty Mitz? Is that a platform that you're...
Yeah, frolicking around on Final Fantasy 14, probably with the 900 hours that I've accumulated so far.
Man.
You can't find me. I've been ghosting for the past several years.
Whoa.
But I do have a old YouTube channel, The Luminaire Show. If you care, I may update that.
Someday.
Yep.
He's got Sonic Generations.
And the Latino flavored one, the Cubanair Show.
Oh my god. That's so bad.
And Mr. Ryu, where can we find you?
You can't find me anywhere.
That's my joke.
All right, everybody.
But anyways, if you really want to find me,
I wasn't kidding when I said there'd be more
fine.
people this week.
Fine, now you won't be able to find me.
I was going to say, you don't find him, he finds you. Teleports behind you, nothing personnel case.
He's traveling around the world trying to find harder people to fight.
Yeah.
All over the world.
All over the world. Wait, Ryu is his last name?
Mario?
Ryu.
Somebody should tell Mr. Miyagi that Daniel's last name is LaRusso, so we can actually call him LaRusso-san instead of Daniel-san.
Yeah.
Japanese guy doesn't even know how to speak Japanese.
Mr. Miyagi?
Miyagi.
Oh, Miyagi, sorry.
Of the Miyagi Dojo.
That's right.
All right, well, have a good week, everybody.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.